We're here. Whew. It's a bit of a hike.
Yeah. Did you bring the Frisbee?
No.
I thought you brought the Frisbee.
I thought you did.
I didn't bring the Frisbee. What are we going to do now?
Hold on. Getting creative.
Okay.
It's a stick.
Grab a knife and a tomahawk. I think it just might work.
Sweet. Let's make it happen. So, in place of Frisbee golf, we're actually going to play throwing stick golf. Now, the throwing stick is probably most recognizable in this form. This is a boomerang, which is basically a kid's toy that comes back. Boomerang.
It's supposed to come back. It doesn't really.
Which is why we've moved on to the straight flying boomerang. These are examples of killer sticks, or throwing sticks, or boomerangs, or Kylies. They have a lot of different names because they popped up in a lot of different cultures. King Tut, of all people, actually loved hunting with a throwing stick. The ancient Egyptians used them for birds, and they were used in Russia, they were used in India. Here in the western United States, they were used by both the Hopi and the Navajo tribes.
There's some debate on whether or not the boomerangs were ever supposed to come back. A lot of Aboriginal boomerangs were also used for digging holes and other household tasks, as well as for killing small animals over pretty good distances. These ones do not come back. But we don't need them to. It's Frisbee golf time.
It's true. We just have to find them after we throw them, and that can sometimes be a challenge. We've come into Frisbee golf because it'll improve our aim.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Many of you may be wondering why throw a stick? Like, why not just throw a rock? Probably the earliest hunting weapon is a rock. But the trouble with a rock is you have to be really accurate. As this thing flies through the air, it will hit one point. However, if you throw a stick and you get it rotating, you can see that it hits a line about this wide. And so it's way more forgiving of the area that you intend to hit. So as it will go, it'll have kind of a one more effect, and also it tends to ricochet and bounce, which if you were unlucky with the first hit, you might still be lucky with the second. And so essentially that's the idea behind one of these. They're thrown sideways, and the idea is to whack something. The reason, interestingly enough, that boomerangs are made with this curve, this characteristic angle in them, is because if you have just a flat stick and it's kind of got that flat cross section here, and you try to throw it, it becomes easier for it to rotate around this axis than around this axis. And so having a spur that sticks out sideways corrects that problem. It makes it so that it's much happier spinning this way than this way.
What I really liked about these two, as opposed to that one from what I observed, is that these ones have much more of a floaty effect when it goes horizontally. I guess I would describe it thus, is when Joseph throws this one, it looks to me like he's throwing a stick, which is unsurprising because it's a stick. But you've all seen the way that a Frisbee kind of like glides through the air and floats on its way to its target. Okay, I have a straight shot to the basket, but it's through trees.
It just shows the kind of precision you'd need in order to actually hunt in a woodland environment. I imagine these things are better in plains. Nice.
Based on what we're seeing so far, I'd say this is probably not very effective in a wooded area. You don't get the scythe effect because you're too likely to run into trees. Definitely better for an open Australian plain than the mountains of Utah.
I guess that's where the hunting skill comes from. Isn't hunting the animals, it's hunting your weapon.
Joseph was just mentioning that, you know, if I am an Aboriginal child and I have here my trusty boomerang and I'm just walking around with it, well, like any sane and healthy boy will do, I will throw it all the time. I'll try to hit things, I'll try to hit birds, I'll try to hit rocks, probably try to hit my brothers and sisters. As you do that, you'll be gaining powers of observation. You'll also be building the skills associated with throwing a stick, right?
Right, because you're going to have to find the thing when it goes in the bushes.
Exactly. So you develop throwing skills and observation skills. You might say, well, throwing a stick, that's not that useful. We don't need that in the modern world. You're probably pretty right that we don't need it to survive. But you also lose the observational skills. So it's just interesting to see how, like, you have this overall goal of collecting food, but then underneath it there's a network of skills that combine and are honed in the different processes on the way to get food. Throwing a stick might not be the most essential thing in the modern world, although it is a lot of fun. But you need to find some way to cultivate those observational skills outside of throwing a stick, or else have your kids throw sticks.
6. That's not too bad.
Par 3.
Par 3,
Apparently par for the whole course is 30, so divide among 10 holes.
I guess.
Although this one seems a little more difficult than 1.
Yes.
Well, I'd say the first thing we learned is that neither of us can kill rabbits with this, and we're not eating today.
Not today, at least. But
Not today.
maybe a few more rounds of golf. I mean, we only finished 5 holes. Maybe if we did the full 10, there would have been a rabbit waiting at top, fully cooked, ready to go.
You never know.
You never do.